In every society, there is a subtle lie whispered into the ears of the kind that goodness makes strength, that empathy makes leadership, that morality guarantees respect. But in the arena of power, this belief becomes a noose. History doesn't remember the most ethical men. It remembers the most effective. And effectiveness has never required a conscience. It requires precision, detachment, the willingness to be what others won't. Those born with goodness in their blood rarely understand this until it's far too late. You want to believe that your conscience makes you noble, but in power, it makes you predictable. You hesitate when others strike. You rationalize when others dominate. While you replay conversations in your head, they rewrite the rules in real time, and you don't even notice because you're still trying to be fair. In a world that only understands force, the darker truth is this. You keep waiting for people to appreciate your integrity, but they only see your restraint, and restraint invites aggression. Every time you pause to do the right thing, someone else does the smart thing. You ask yourself if you're being too harsh. They ask if you're being too weak. It is much safer to be feared than loved, Machiavelli warned, not as a moral judgment, but as a survival principle. And you don't survive by being understood. You survive by being untouchable. There's a sickness to compassion when it's weaponized against you. People sense it. They exploit it. They cry victim while sinking the knife. And you, the good one, stay silent because your identity is built on being reasonable, even as others become unreasonable right in front of you. You tell yourself that eventually they'll see your value, that fairness will win. But this isn't a courtroom. It's a battlefield. And mercy here is seen as softness, not strength. You've spent your life believing that being liked is a sign of success. But in leadership, being liked is the byproduct of power, not its source. If you chase their affection, you lose their respect. They may smile to your face, but they smell your hesitation. They notice your need to be morally pure. And in power, nothing is more dangerous than needing to be seen as good, because they will trap you in that need, force you to explain your decisions, beg for understanding, soften every edge until you're harmless. You think your overthinking makes you thoughtful, but it makes you late. Leadership doesn't wait for your inner conflict to resolve. It demands decisions now, and every second you spend weighing ethics, someone else is claiming territory. Political, psychological, or literal. You think you're playing chess, but you're being hunted by people who see hesitation as opportunity. And when they strike, they won't do it with anger. They'll do it with calculation. Stop believing that your goodness will protect you. It won't. It only protects them from the version of you that would win. Real leadership begins the moment you stop needing to be liked, the moment you stop explaining your silence, the moment you realize that morality isn't armor, it's bait. And the ones who survive, they lead not with conscience, but with clarity. You weren't made weak. You were trained to be. Conditioned to believe that kindness wins loyalty, but loyalty doesn't come from love. It comes from fear of loss or fear of power. And if you can't provide either, you will lead nothing. So choose effectiveness over goodness, because in the end, no one follows the kind-hearted. They follow the ones they can't afford to cross. Fairness is one of the most seductive lies in human society. It gives the powerless hope, the comfortable peace, and the insecure something to cling to. But in positions of power, fairness is not a principle. It is a trap. Those who obsess over appearing just rarely understand how the appearance itself is used to strip them of control. You keep trying to do what's right. You balance the scale, weigh every voice equally, and tell yourself, this is leadership, but it isn't. It's fear wearing the mask of virtue. You're terrified of being seen as biased, so you spend your energy pleasing everyone. And in doing so, you please no one. They don't respect your balance. They see your indecision. They don't admire your fairness. They smell your fear. The more you chase equality, the more they test your limits. They take what you offer, then demand more. They manipulate your principles, corner you with your own words, and make you explain every decision twice, and you oblige. Because you think fairness demands transparency, but fairness demands nothing. It's not real. It's an illusion the powerful control. As Machiavelli understood, a prince must appear just, but act to his advantage. If you cannot do both, you will be devoured. You think even-handedness will protect you, but it just makes you predictable. They know you'll divide resources equally, soften punishments, hear every side, so they weaponize that knowledge. They act just outraged enough to trigger your guilt. They speak just loud enough to gain your attention. And in trying to avoid appearing unfair, you bend the rules for everyone until the rules mean nothing. Your fairness is not strength. It is a weakness detector, and everyone around you is running diagnostics. They press you, lie to you, manipulate emotion, not to find truth, but to find where you'll break. And when you do, they'll call it leadership failure. Not because you were cruel, but because you were soft, because you gave in, because you wanted to be seen as good more than you wanted to win. There is no fair balance in power. There is only advantage, and those who win don't seek balance. They tilt the scale in their favor while pretending it's level. You must learn this. You must study how to favor allies, reward loyalty, and punish betrayal without apology. Don't call it cruelty. Call it clarity. Because if your enemies fear no consequence, your allies will trust no reward. You tell yourself you're not playing favorites, but you are. Everyone is. The difference is that the powerful do it strategically, while the weak do it out of guilt. You hand out favors to silence complaints. They hand out favors to build control. The result is the same on the surface, but underneath, only one of you owns the outcome. Let go of the illusion. Fairness is not your duty. Effectiveness is. Stability doesn't come from equality. It comes from the fear of imbalance, the sense that you could tilt the board at any moment. And if they forget that, you remind them, not with kindness, with outcome. Don't aim to be seen as fair. Aim to be seen as dangerous, yet restrained. Appear just, sound neutral, but move with intent. Favor usefulness, punish betrayal. Make them feel your hand before they ever see it. Because in the end, no one follows a referee. They follow the one who decides where the game ends. Mercy is one of the most dangerous instincts a leader can indulge. It masquerades as wisdom, cloaked in the language of compassion and growth. But beneath the surface, it is hesitation. And in the eyes of the ambitious, hesitation is blood in the water. Power does not forgive delays, and those who lead with mercy often find themselves consumed by the very people they tried to save. You gave them another chance because you thought it would win loyalty. You believed in their better nature, assumed that kindness would buy transformation, but all it bought was time. For them, not for you. Time to regroup, to scheme, to study your weaknesses, They didn't see a leader with depth. They saw one with doubts. And in that doubt, they carved the path to your replacement. You want to believe in the myth of second chances. But in power, there are no myths, only consequences. Mercy may soothe your conscience, but it does nothing for your control. The person who defied you once will do it again. Only next time, they'll be smarter. They've seen that you hesitate. They've learned your rhythm. And if they know you'll always forgive, they no longer fear your line. Because they know you'll redraw it. Softness doesn't buy respect. It buys positioning. The moment you show leniency, the people around you begin shifting. Some whisper that you're noble. Others calculate how far they can push. But everyone watches. Everyone sees that your punishments have gaps. And gaps are where rebellion breeds. As Machiavelli warned, if you must injure a man, do it in such a way that you need not fear his revenge. When you wound instead of destroy, you guarantee the return. You tell yourself you're being strategic, that holding back shows emotional intelligence. But what it really shows is fear of consequence. You're afraid to be hated, afraid to be labeled cruel. So you let people stay who should have been removed. You offer warnings where there should have been silence, followed by action. And you let them believe they're still safe when they should feel nothing but danger. Rehabilitation is a fantasy in the mind of the idealist. In the real world, people don't transform under mercy. They adapt to it. They test its boundaries, and they use it as cover, while they sharpen the same blade they once used against you. You think you're building loyalty, but you're building an army of unpunished offenses, each one growing sharper with time. Power isn't about giving chances. It's about showing what happens when a line is crossed. Not once, not eventually, instantly. You don't need to explain it. You don't need to argue it. You just let the consequences speak. And when they fall, they must fall in public, loud enough for the rest to hear. Fear is more efficient than love because it doesn't require belief. It only requires memory. The ones you spare will never thank you. They'll resent your mercy because deep down they know they deserved punishment, and that knowledge festers into blame. They will find a way to turn your restraint into your failure. And when the moment comes, they'll strike. Not because you were cruel, but because you weren't cruel enough. So stop negotiating with disloyalty. Stop waiting for them to become what they are not. Punish once. Punish hard. Let the lesson echo. Mercy is not leadership. It is erosion. And the longer you delay, the closer your enemies get to the throne. Some leaders believe power comes from clarity, from making themselves understood. They explain their motives, justify their decisions, and clarify their intentions. They think transparency creates trust, but in the shadows of real power, this habit reveals something else entirely: a need for emotional validation. And once that need is visible, it can be exploited. You want to be understood because you want to be liked. You want them to know you're fair, thoughtful, principled, as if those things will shield you from attack. But the more you explain, the more you reveal. Not strength, but insecurity. Not presence, but permission. You give people access to your reasoning, and in doing so, you hand them the tools to dismantle it. Every time you justify, you shrink. They watch how you second-guess, how you hope they'll agree, how you want them to see your side. But they don't care about your side. They care about what you'll allow. And the more you speak, the more they learn how to push. A good person leads with intention. A Machiavellian leads with results. The former tries to be understood. The latter makes sure he's never questioned. There's a quiet desperation in your need to be seen. You explain yourself, not for clarity, but for control. You believe that if people just grasp your intentions, they'll fall in line. But power doesn't work that way. The ones who follow explanation are the first to betray it, because what they understand, they no longer fear, and what they no longer fear, they eventually test. It's in the silence where real dominance is born. When you say less, people invent reasons. They fill in the gaps with their own insecurities. They attribute depth where there is only strategy. They fear what they can't predict. And that unpredictability becomes your armor. As Machiavelli understood, it's better to inspire fear through presence than to invite scrutiny through speech. And every word you utter is a window someone will eventually crawl through. The urge to be understood comes from ego, not strength. You think you're building connection, but all you're doing is revealing the weight you carry. The need to be liked, to be vindicated. A powerful leader doesn't beg to be seen. He moves in silence. He punishes without apology. He makes decisions without panels. And he leaves others to interpret what he never says aloud. You don't need to explain your reasoning. You need to be the reason others stop talking. Speak with your actions. Let people wonder. Let your distance confuse them. Let your silence echo louder than their noise. Every sentence you don't say becomes a message they can't decode. And the more they can't decode you, the more they watch, wait, and fear. So say less. Let tension replace explanation. Let discomfort do the work that words never could. Don't justify. Don't clarify. Don't give them the satisfaction of seeing inside. The moment they understand you, they'll believe they can replace you. But as long as you stay unreadable, you remain untouchable. Betrayal is not an anomaly. It is the natural decay of power. Every leader, no matter how benevolent or brutal, will one day be betrayed, not by their enemies, but by those they once lifted. The trusted inner circle, the loyal subordinate, the grateful ally. Betrayal is a question of when, not if, and the only difference is how long a leader bleeds before they finally see it. You think loyalty means safety. You think kindness builds allegiance, that if you treat people with fairness and generosity, they'll remember it when it matters. But loyalty isn't built on memory. It's built on fear. And when that fear fades, so does their devotion. They smile in your presence. They repeat your words, but in the quiet corners of their minds, they're calculating how close they can stand before they push you over the edge. You don't spot betrayal because you're too focused on the good you did. You believe loyalty is personal, emotional, moral. But it's not. Loyalty is leverage. And the moment someone finds a safer hand, a higher offer, or a weaker version of you, they will switch. As Machiavelli warned, men are ungrateful, fickle, and greedy, and they will betray you if it serves them better, not because you failed them, but because you gave them options. You wait too long. You hope too hard. You give them the benefit of the doubt while they sharpen the knife. And when they finally turn, you're not just wounded, you're stunned. Not because it happened, but because you never believed it could. Good leaders give too many chances. They confuse patience for wisdom. But a slow reaction isn't strategy. It's self-sabotage. There were signs, always are. The hesitation in their voice, the silence after success, the way they stop defending you when you're not in the room. But you ignored it. You called it pressure, mood, exhaustion, anything but what it really was. A shift Their allegiance was already sold. You were just too proud to check the receipt. The Machiavellian never asks if he will be betrayed. He only prepares for who and when. He understands that trust is currency, not faith, that everyone has a price, and some will hide it better than others. He doesn't fear betrayal. He anticipates it, and when it comes, he acts quickly, without hesitation, without mourning, because the king who pauses dies before he hits the floor. You believe removing a traitor requires proof that unless you're certain, you'll be seen as paranoid, unjust. But that hesitation is blood in the water. Your silence gives them confidence. Your delay becomes their permission. If betrayal even feels real, it's already begun. And by the time you confirm it, the damage is done. So never trust blindly. Keep every relationship weighted with power, not just hope. Hold something over everyone, not because you intend to use it, but because you might have to. If they think you have nothing on them, they will eventually have something on you. A good leader inspires loyalty. A Machiavellian enforces it. They will betray you, not because you were weak, but because you gave them the illusion they could get away with it. The faster you accept that truth, the colder you become. And in that cold, there is clarity. Because in leadership, it's not betrayal that destroys you. It's the delay in responding to it. Most leaders enter power with ideals in hand. Visions of fairness, integrity, and principle. These morals are meant to guide them, to separate them from the corrupt. But soon, those same morals become constraints, predictable, exploitable. A code of ethics, once visible, is no longer a shield. It becomes a map, and everyone reads it, but the one who carries it. You think your principles make you strong. That holding the moral high ground gives you credibility. That if you stay consistent, people will respect you. But morality doesn't earn loyalty. It invites attack. Every time you draw a line, someone will step to it, just to see if you flinch. They'll pretend to admire your standards while quietly testing their limits. And when it suits them, they'll turn your own words into your cage. You believe your values give you clarity, but in the real world, clarity is a liability. The clearer your ethics, the easier it is to trap you. They'll corner you in decisions you never intended to make and quote you as justification. You said you believed in fairness. You promised transparency, and you'll freeze. Not because they're right, but because they're holding the mirror you handed them. As Machiavelli understood, the people admire virtue when it's distant, but punish it when it disrupts their desire. You hold yourself back to stay consistent. You pass on opportunities because they don't feel right. You let others cross boundaries while you retreat to the rules. But rules aren't respected. They're used. Especially when they're public. People remember what you stand for only long enough to exploit it. And when your morality makes you hesitate, they move first. You're not admired for restraint. You're targeted for it. They'll set traps that only work on ethical minds. They'll bait you with dilemmas that force you to choose between your reputation and your result. And while you deliberate, they'll act. You'll follow the process. They'll claim the outcome. In every arena of power, politics, business, war, the person clinging to morality, the hardest, is usually the one bleeding the most. By the end, you're playing fair in a rigged game, and you think being virtuous will inspire others to do the same. It won't. They don't mirror your ethics. They use them. Your morality is the playbook they study, the boundary they poke, the leash they pull. And when you finally break from it, they'll act shocked, not because you crossed a line, but because you stopped letting them hold it. So change the strategy. Don't abandon morality. Conceal it. Display it like armor. But wear something sharper underneath. Let them believe you're bound by honor while you maneuver beneath it. Because power doesn't belong to the most moral. It belongs to the one who knows how to make morality a mask and a blade. Most leaders begin with the illusion that goodness is enough. They believe that if they are fair, honest, and consistent, the world will bend in response. But power is not granted through kindness. It is claimed through necessity. Those who try to be liked are replaced. Those who try to be respected are tested. Only those who become feared and remain useful are remembered. You've tried to be good. You've tried to be understood. You've spoken gently, listened carefully, and held back when you should have struck. And what has it earned you? Temporary gratitude, conditional support, and the quiet contempt of those who sense your restraint. The world doesn't reward softness. It devours it. Your need to be seen as fair has become a shackle. Your desire to be liked has made you predictable. And your integrity, once noble, now makes you slow. You keep hoping they'll see your heart, that your patience, your loyalty, your sacrifices will be acknowledged. But they won't be. People don't remember warmth. They remember presence. And presence is not about volume or charm. It's about control. The moment you stop trying to be good is the moment you start to become necessary, as Machiavelli warned. It is better to be feared than loved if you cannot be both. And in truth, you never had both. You were only tolerated until something sharper arrived. You've been carrying your morals like armor. But armor rusts. Armor slows you down. You don't need to be protected. You need to become the weapon, not reckless, not cruel, surgical, calculated. Let go of the light. Become the shadow that bends the room when you enter it. Stop trying to soothe people's fears. Learn how to shape them. Learn how to let silence speak louder than comfort. Learn how to become the question no one wants to answer. You still think being great is about being right. It's not. Greatness has no moral standard. It has weight, density, an unshakable presence. People follow strength, not virtue. They follow inevitability. The good man leads a moment. The feared man commands a decade. The good man is honored in speeches. The feared man is obeyed in silence. And those who cannot evolve are discarded, kindly, ceremonially, and permanently. You don't need to be cruel to lead, but you do need to become untouchable. You need to stop asking for permission and start radiating necessity. The moment they feel they can live without you, they will, and they'll do it with a smile. So become irreplaceable, not by pleasing them, but by becoming the force they depend on. Your myth must do the work your smile never could. This is your final transformation. You will not be remembered for how kind you were. You will be remembered for how real everything became when you walked into the room. That's not cruelty. That's clarity. Stop needing to be safe. Stop needing to be seen. Start becoming the reason everything moves when you choose to stand still.